Guys, welcome. My name's Steve Grant. Each month, we have the opportunity to interview a successful gym owner. We call it an Accelerate session. Today, I want to give a very special welcome to Heath Jones. Welcome, bud.
Thank you.
Heath, I checked recently. You've got three studios: Hurstville, Canterbury, and is it Mitchell? How do you say it?
Mitchelton in Brazil. Yeah.
Mitchelton.
Yeah.
Which is a couple more than last time we spoke a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Um, for those that maybe haven't met you before and are maybe hearing about your brand for the first time, can you give us a little bit of insight into what is the brand and how long have you been going with this one?
Yeah, sure. And hi everyone. So I founded Active and Ageless around, say, 5, 6 years ago. I had the idea for the best part of 10 years. At the time, I was working overseas as a medic on the oil rigs. History of a registered nurse for many years and time in the military. So yeah, I'd always had the dream of owning my own gym that specialized in mature adults. And then a few years back, I decided to give it a red hot crack and actually, do it as opposed to just dreaming about it and talking about it. Yeah, wanted to actually, walk the walk instead of just talking about it. And then, of course, a thing called COVID happened. On the lease I got for my first location was the 1st of January 2020. And as we know, I think it was probably February, March 2020, the whole world kind of changed. And I had an empty shell of a building in Hurstville, Sydney. Yeah, and I wasn't able to do anything. Wasn't able to get council approval. Wasn't able to get any of the building happens. So my rent-free period got chewed up very quickly. That kind of
Mm,
went, and then had another 6 months where I was paying rent. They were kind enough to subsidise me a little bit. But I still had an empty shell sitting there, and I didn't get it. We opened in about, it was right at the end of 2020. So it had been sitting there for about 11 months, the gym. And then that was as we come out of the first lockdown. So we're open for about, I think, 4, 5 months. And then, it was, given the demographic that I target, over 50s, it was always a challenge. They were a little bit apprehensive to get back into, a closed environment and whatnot. And then, yeah, we went into our second lockdown. So we lost most of our members then. And then come out of that lockdown, I think it was 2021, about October. So we kind of started again. There was many
mm.
times throughout that 18 to 20-month period, I nearly gave up many, many times. Yeah, and then I suppose we opened again, and eventually and gradually we built up. And yeah, thankfully now I didn't do it. I wanted to throw the keys somewhere at some stage, but it was back at the landlord or the council that owns that the first location. Yeah, and just give it all up. But thankfully I didn't. I don't know why I didn't. To be honest, I think back now as to what actually kept me going, but it was probably my members more so than anything, and my staff. And yeah, here I am now. I'm at the Canterbury gym actually at the moment. Just the manager's away overseas. She's in Utah at the moment, lucky thing, and I'm filling in for her. So yeah, and we've got a joint venture that we're doing at the moment with an aged care facility in Queensland, which we're opening up 2 locations up there with them as well.
Mate, I love, I know it's probably painful to share that sort of startup story, but I actually like hearing that it didn't all go perfect and you didn't have the dream run and 100 members signed up on pre-sales and stuff because I feel like most people have a bit of a war story where you can't get DA or your equipment doesn't show up and there's some type of interruption. But I don't know if anyone could actually get it worse than if you've got an over 50s demographic, which basically were told to go into hiding during COVID, and also a group training model. That is the exact opposite to probably what you want when COVID hits. But
Yeah.
you've done well. Tell us about the model. So it's a group training. What do people pay to come in and sort of see you?
Yeah, it depends. We have, like a lot of other gyms, we have a membership option. We have a lot of pack options. But generally speaking, most people probably do on average 3 classes a week. And that's, actually, I have to check the website. I think it's $56 a week now for 3 classes. But we're quite would you say, strict with our onboarding process too. Yes, it is group classes that we do. We toyed with many different, I suppose, iterations of the business. We had gym only. We had self-directed programs. We had personal training. We had group classes, and it kind of now we're 100% group classes. So, but having said that, you get an individual, I suppose, individual attention within the group environment. We bring someone in initially, we do a movement assessment, quite a comprehensive fitness assessment that we've developed with some software geeks, and they've done a brilliant job. Yeah, then we're supposed to give them some options as to what type of classes we think a person should be suitable for. So, yeah, and the fitness assessments too. We try to every 3 months or thereabouts we do a reassessment to, see where we are: lower body strength, upper body strength, flexibility, balance, and whatnot. It's good for feedback. It's good for retention for members when they can see they've really progressed in certain areas. And
Mm.
if their flexibility hasn't improved, for example, we might give them a bit of a suggestion or a push towards some of the more of the flexibility classes as well.
So they'll come in for like a one-on-one style movement screen or assessment. I guess help them to get started with that, a bit of a nutrition direction. And how many would you have in a class, do you think?
We have a maximum of 16. So
Okay.
quite often, I mean, I had a class this morning. I think it was either 15 or 16. We get a few. Actually, we still get quite a few here at Canterbury. This is our newer gym. It's only been open for about uh, 14 months now, I think. So we get probably, out of the 35 classes a week we do here, we probably get maybe 5 that are at capacity. Whereas at Hurstville, that's about 5 years now. We probably get, up to 10 classes a week that are at capacity.
Mm. And you've targeted 50s, 50 plus. Tell me what was the kind of rationale behind that? How are you finding it? Sort of pros and cons of that demographic?
Yeah, sure. So I do get asked this a lot, and I am from a medical background myself. Working in the hospital as a registered nurse for many, many years, and I used to see, 2 60-year-olds walk through the door. One was, you know, quite, would you say, the mobility was quite poor, quite incapacitated with pain or just, chronic disease and whatnot. Then you see another 60-year-old person, and they move around like, someone far younger than them. And I
Mm.
suppose really understood the importance of, strength training, mobility and whatnot for people of any age, but especially for mature adults, especially if they've been sedentary and whatnot throughout their life. But there was not really an option for them, especially if, they would go to their GP for the first time. The GP says, you're diabetic or you're pre-diabetic, or, you're osteoporotic or osteopenic. I need you to go and do some exercise. And they're like, oh, where do I go? There wasn't a lot of options for them. And I get it. It'd be extremely intimidating. So, that's probably what was the birth of the idea. I've also myself, with time in the military, I've had multiple injuries, multiple back operations and whatnot. And I think I got to the point of time where I felt like I was probably aged beyond my years due to all my injuries. And, I got myself back to quite a good level of fitness through, certain functional and training and mobility training. And I thought I could use a lot of those, the methods that I use on myself to help other people, which, yeah, and I suppose that was as a clash of ideas, I suppose. And and then pull the trigger and yeah.
I love it as an idea. I've noticed on social media that you stand out because you actually have a specific audience that you're talking to.
Yeah,
I know if businesses I've had, if you're sort of open to taking on everyone, it can feel like you don't really specialize in any
exactly.
particular
Yeah,
sort of demographic, and it's quite expensive to be running ads at someone from the age of 18 up to 75. So if you
yeah.
can sort of choose a specific audience, so is it fair to say there's probably less competition in the 50 plus market for advertising?
It's possible. I probably don't really know the answer to that because I've never really advertised to a younger demographic. Although I have plenty of friends in the industry, and they tell me about, it is a little it is a kind of saturated market. So yes, it is. But we're also targeting a lot of people that have either never exercised or haven't exercised for sometimes decades. So there is, I suppose, certain challenges that we face when marketing to them. Thankfully, and I'll kind of come back to the COVID thing. I think one of the actual the silver linings that come out of COVID was the fact that people started taking ownership of their own health instead of believing for years that you can essentially outsource your health to the medical industry or even the government. Now, I think people understand the importance of, staying fit, staying as healthy as they possibly can, being strong. I get so many, especially women nowadays, they come in and, when we first kind of say, what do you want? How can we help? They say, I want to do resistance training because I want to get strong. I would have never had that, even at my very start of the
Mhm.
very first time we opened the Hurstville gym. We wouldn't have got that. So the space is evolving, which is great. So it's bringing greater awareness. And I think now that, a lot of demographic that I target, even their children are kind of saying, hey, mum and dad, you need to exercise. You need to move your body. Sitting on, the couch or whatever, or even doing kind of, just walking, for example, is great, but it's not enough. You actually need to do specific, style fitness, and yeah, primarily strength training, which is what we do.
Thought I might just bring up your one of your Instagram page. It's interesting. I can see stuff on here. There's a 10:30 a.m. walk club, which is obviously
Yeah.
tailored to the demographic. There's a something that's quite refreshing on your Instagram account is all the pictures are of your members. There's very few. I was scrolling down for ages before I could find a staff member. Like, you know
Mhm.
how most gyms, obviously different demographics
Yeah.
sometimes, but it's always the trainers with their shirts off and the trainers on a ski erg and look at how fit I am and how tight my shirt is. I love the sort of community focus. I mentioned a walk club, but there's also things like events where you're organizing, trail walks and yeah, I love that aspect of the marketing. Have you found any sort of downside to that demographic? Because my perception is there's upside, and they're probably a very loyal demographic. If they
It's
get into
super
a
loyal.
routine,
Yeah.
they stick around. Any disadvantages that maybe the people targeting 30-year-olds wouldn't experience?
Yeah, sure. Look, you hit the nail on the head. Probably the best benefit is yeah, their loyalty. Um, they will tell you if you're doing the right thing, and they will most definitely tell you if you're doing something wrong as well. So that's good and bad. Look, I suppose if there's any kind of negative, a lot of my people will go overseas. I'd say about probably 50% of my people are retired, and some others, at a level where they're a consultant or whatever they are, but a lot do go overseas for long periods of time, more so than younger demographic. I think we kind of there's about two or three this morning that are all heading to Europe and whatnot within the next week, and they go for 2 months. They go for a long time. So thankfully, it's not as bad as a couple of years ago, post COVID. Given where we are in Sydney, we've got a lot of people from Greek heritage and whatnot, Macedonians and Italians, and I remember when I was just starting to kind of get on my feet again, and we lost about 40% of the membership base over, Australian winter because they all went to Europe. But thankfully, most of them come back. Yeah, that's not as bad each winter now, each Australian winter now. I mean, you still get quite a few that go overseas, but nothing like it was post COVID. So
So it's
yeah,
it's
I
in
don't
one
really
way.
see too many
In one way,
negatives at
they've got
all.
sort of like time, so
Yeah,
they don't all have to train at 7 a.m. like some gyms, and
yeah,
they
yeah.
got money because they've probably worked their entire
Yeah,
life.
absolutely.
But
And
um,
we want to try, like we do a lot of, I know there's a lot of gyms out there that claim to do functional fitness, and we do a lot of, I'd like to say we do a lot of transferable exercises. One we're doing at the moment is a suitcase lift. So you're lifting kettlebell off a step, for example. And I'm trying to train people so that, these transferable skills can be used in everyday life. So when they do go to Europe in Australian winter, they can, lift up their heavy suitcases and whatnot, and hopefully do it with relative ease and can do it safely without injuring themselves.
truly functional exercises that relate
Yeah.
to a bit of life. This is your website. Guys, I encourage you to look up activeandageless.com.au so you can see what Heath and his brand are doing. I was interested to see that you've got like Body and Soul. There's a couple of like what magazines or traditional sort of like New Idea and stuff like that. Are these places you've sort of advertised, or have you had a bit of like a story about one of your members? How did you sort of get in those publications?
Yeah, I think I've been lucky in that because of the demographic that I target. A lot of publications have found us. A friend of mine, I think you know Brittany Bennett. She's also reached out to me at times, which has
In
been
PR, yeah.
fantastic. Yeah, exactly. You just know, she had an article to write about whatever, something to do with, strength training for over 50s or wellness or, kind of how to, maintain your balance when you're as we age, whatever it has been. I've been in a position to yeah, be able to write about that. So, you kind of seem to do one or two articles and, thankfully you get seen and they come, quite often directly to you, which is great as well. So happy to do the articles and you get a bit of, I suppose, exposure and just awareness for active aging.
Yeah, I think it definitely adds credibility to your brand when there is so many sort of fitness options out there. I think the thing I didn't really understand before opening my second gym was that these PR agencies really need content, and they have to produce, articles
Yeah,
and stuff, like a number of them every single day. So if they sort of reach out and say, "Hey, can you do an article on the over 50s health or something?" and you just help them, they'll often come back to you and they'll often ask for your opinion on something else, when it comes up. So, I love that tip. I think that's really helpful just to be, reliable if someone needs, content. Thinking of like what's the local magazine near us is the Wentworth Courier or something near
yeah,
Rushcutters Bay.
yeah.
Again, lots of stories in there, lots of content that they require. And this is something I haven't put on my website, health fund rebates. Do you find the over 50s demographic, that's something they ask about, or is that something they can claim on, their exercise?
Yeah, and it's something we need to remind them about kind of frequently because, as we know, in Australia, private health insurance is extremely expensive, and there's billions of dollars in unclaimed extras every year. So it all depends on what their provider, who their provider is, what cover they have. I always just say to people, I mean, we can't really know, absolutely every single cover and policy, their terms out there. So we just encourage people to give their insurance provider a call and just say, hey, look, we are, I've joined a gym that does coached classes, and it's do we get a rebate kind of thing. So
Mm.
look, I think I'm hoping in the next few years there's a few people on the case trying to get some private health insurance providers to rebate their members more because I mean we know for them if they got someone who's is fit and healthy and they're training and whatnot, they're less likely to need medical services and whatnot. So it's in their best interest to rebate someone for fitness services.
Yeah, I'm with you. I saw in the States, Donald Trump and his party were trying to get in the Fit Act, which enables people to use pre-tax dollars for fitness.
Yeah.
And it actually got run over the top of, and it didn't get passed.
Right.
But I
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
think the fact they lobbied for it is a good sign that
Sure.
maybe
Yeah.
they're aware, like the government are going to pay for it one way or the other. They're going to
Mm,
help you to
exactly. Yeah.
maybe get active and go and
Yeah.
join Active and Ageless, or maybe they just pay for you in hospital for to sit there for
Yeah.
three
And
years,
we
sort
all
of
know
thing.
what the better of those two options are. So yeah,
Yeah.
hopefully, the powers to be kind of get a little bit smarter with this and do kind of support what we do because we're doing a good thing. We're essentially alleviating the government in the long term of, congested hospital systems. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it's something that, given any opportunity to, throw our 2 cents worth in or support, whether it's Oz Active or any of those sort of brands that sometimes act as our spokesman, I think it's good to support them.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
Guys, I want to pause for a second. I've been hogging the microphone for Heath for 20 minutes or so. And I do have a whole heap of questions for personal reasons I want to ask Heath. But if you have a question, if you're considering maybe training people that are 50 plus in your own gym, if you're interested in that sort of format around, a small group, large, it's up to sort of 16 members and how you can sort of get the billing up to around $56 a week. Go into the chat. Feel free to ask any questions. If it's something we can help with, we'll do our best to give you a hand. A couple of ones that while I'm waiting for the guys to sort of post there. Tell me about your journey from like one studio to three studios. You said you've got opportunities to have two up on the Gold Coast as well, which would be like five. How do you like find locations? Your first one in Hurstville. Did you like you don't live in Hurstville? Why did you choose Hurstville? How did you sort of come across that one?
Yeah, I went a little bit geeky with this in terms of I developed a bit of a personal matrix, as in, look, I looked for particular areas. I looked at Australian Bureau of Statistics, data, demographics, and whatnot. Supply and demand in the area, what there was already, what's just I would just say kind of looked at weekly median family incomes and age brackets and whatnot. So yeah, and then kind of went down to the level of the actual location itself. Was that a nice flat, observable space within the facility itself and whatnot? Was there car parking available? Was there
Yep.
public transport? Some of my people do use public transport. Yes, and then I think, oh, I hope so. I got the second location, which is where I'm at now in Canterbury. um you're never going to find the perfect location. I suppose that's one thing you need to, if you do, get that place straight away. But it's pretty hard to get absolutely everything you want. So yeah, going from one to two, I mean, I've made plenty of mistakes in the first location in terms of the fit out. What really overcapitalized in some aspects in terms of change rooms and whatnot. The second location was significantly cheaper in terms of fit out. And thankfully the third one, which is the joint venture, we haven't had to do any fit out at all. It's just equipment, programs and staff really. So
As in, it's already sort of DA'd for fitness and it's pretty flat, or you mean it was like a fitness facility or something previously?
it's a community center with on the complex of the uh, aged care facility or a nursing home kind of thing. So but it's open to the public. This is the third location, whereas my first two locations were brand new, both of them. So
Okay.
we had to do the whole DA process and whatnot, which was, yeah, as you know, a bit of a challenge.
Oh, it's just so expensive to put bathrooms in. Whatever
Yeah,
you
yeah,
quoted, it doubles that. Whatever that council wants to sort of do. So I'd come
mm,
from one council on the Northern Beaches where you needed, I think like three bathrooms or something for a certain demographic, and then I went to Rushcutters. You needed five plus plus a wheelchair bathroom, and yeah, we were open and we still didn't have DA. We got bills and stuff coming in. It's
yeah,
I think if you can, I love those sort of tips. Like if you can find somewhere that's reasonably flat and it's got that sort of shell, if it's got parking, it is hard to overcome that down the track, like the parking
mm,
issue. Like if it's
yeah.
an issue day one, it's an issue, further down the track. A couple of good questions have come in. A question, I think that might be Jody. Do you have any side hustles, like big ticket items outside of like the small group training for $56?
Do I have any side hustles?
As in any other like products or services? I think you and I touched on
Sure.
this maybe pre like hitting record.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Short answer, no. I am working on a few things in the background with online programs and whatnot. But generally speaking, I've liked to keep our offerings quite simple. And literally it's just group classes. No, we don't do, we do merchandise, and that's just for well, they get that as part of the induction fee. We don't really have any supplements here or anything like that. I don't see there's an issue why not to do it. I mean, my demographic probably isn't, as familiar with taking, proteins and whatnot that the younger demographic would be. But yeah, by all means, it's obviously it's good to kind of add layers to a membership. If and even kind of when we do challenges and stuff like that, I know a lot of gyms they charge for them. We don't really charge for anything like that unless we do some in-body scanning or something like that. But generally speaking, it's the offerings are quite simple, and I've kind of
Yeah.
kept it like that for scalability. I think it's just
Yeah.
a little bit easier. Not to say that in future, I'm actually working on a well, I have developed along with a couple of food scientists a nutrition bar specifically for mature adults. So that'll be rolled out at some stage, and that'll be sold in the gyms, even though it's a completely separate branding and whatnot. But yeah, in terms of any added kind of, would you say, revenue streams or channels, not at this stage.
Mm. You said it might have even been more people sort of logging in, that at one point you had sort of gym access, at one point you're doing some personal
Yeah,
training, and um, the evolution's probably been in what you could strip away as opposed to
yeah,
what you could sort
yes,
of add
exactly.
on. So you said that that feels more scalable. I assume, does that mean there's just less moving
Yeah.
parts in the business? It feels mentally easier to sort of manage?
Exactly. And, at 10:30 in the morning at Hurstville, we have a particular class, 10:30 in Canterbury. It's exactly the same class. It's almost exactly the same in Brisbane. I have literally a database now of hundreds and hundreds of videos that I've set up myself. So once again, that has taken me years and years to do. It's all housed at the first gym, but going to the second gym, obviously it had its own, would you say, issues starting at the second gym, but it was so much easier because a lot of that intellectual property stuff has been done, even all around our fitness assessments, those kind of things. Like I said, with the exercise programming and all the videos and whatnot, it's kind of already there. So for his ability, scalability, we did just get rid of everything else. And, sorry, classes initially probably didn't, they didn't interest that many people initially. I think I think there was almost a misconception that if they were doing an exercise class, it was going to be hard. Um, but and then they kind of realized that, well, they actually get extra supervision. They can meet people, and they've all formed some brilliant friendships. I see them out all the time, and it warms my heart. They all hang out with each other and whatnot, out of gym time and whatnot. So, for the community aspect to it, especially with, like I was saying before, a lot of our people are retired. The vast majority of them, they might be empty nesters, they might be single. So we've thankfully been able to provide that kind of, that's I suppose
Community.
that team environment, that community for them, which is, so extremely important for any gym. But I mean, I think possibly even more so for these guys that are, out of the workforce and don't have that camaraderie kind of thing as much anymore.
Yeah, I think that's really, really smart to create opportunities for them to meet other people and connect. So part of their sort of life and the fun aspect of what they're doing is somehow evolved out of the gym. Whenever we've done like socials, whether it's like a guest speaker or whether it's drinks and meet at the yacht club or whatever, they come out of the woodwork. Like
Yeah,
everyone's doing, and
yeah,
but you've obviously got those that are still working in their 50s who probably work a couple of days from home now since
yeah,
COVID. So they're looking just to get dressed for the day instead of sitting in their pajamas.
yeah,
and
yeah,
then you got the others, as you said, that maybe are retired and it's a bit of a feature of the week. It's
yeah.
something to look forward to.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, look, we also with the community side of things, as you mentioned before, we do events kind of every usually 2 to 3 a year. We've been doing them for, yeah, this is almost probably second year. We've, always bring along a guest speaker. We've had loads of different people, there's a physio, they've had Guy Leach, which I think lives up your way somewhere. We've had breathwork specialists, a lot of dietitians, we've had them a few times. And even I always kind of say our events are half educational, half social. They come there and, and they're usually big. We get sometimes up to 50% of our membership base coming to our
well,
educational events. And then, and then afterwards we all, after we've learned about what we should and shouldn't do, what we should and shouldn't eat, we all, stand around and have some food and have a couple of beers or wines and whatnot, which is cool. And they love it. And it's, anything like that that can bring people together, it's yeah, it's a great thing to do.
we had a guest speaker a couple of months ago, Kylie Ryan, that does stuff around behavioral change, and was trying to explain it to a few people, like inside the gym, and they're like, "Yeah, maybe. I'm not really sure what that is," and it is a kind of hard subject to like differentiate for
Yeah.
someone. And then I created these little flyers, like a Shandon picture, like a glass of champagne on
Hmm.
arrival, and we had dozens and dozens go like that. It's like, yep, I don't understand what she's going to talk about, but I definitely understand what Shandon is, which again, a good excuse to get there.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. And I'm sure
Question.
they enjoyed it, and they hopefully learned some new behaviors or how to change, bad behaviors.
Oh, before and after classes, you often have people that are sort of stuck in a bit of a rut, and they might have had a habit around eating or exercise that's been reinforced for the last 20 years. So it can be a bit of a challenge as their trainer to try and move them in the right direction because they're quite stubborn, set in their ways. I think if someone comes in and they can reinforce the same stuff the trainers have been trying to say, or they say it in a different way, and sometimes the penny drops. And
Yeah.
our trainers, for example, were commenting on how there was conversations coming back from the members after we had the guest
Hmm.
speaker in, and how they thought it was a good idea to do X, even though they've been saying that for 12 months. But it definitely assists what the trainers are doing. So
Yeah,
going,
exactly. Yeah, yeah, I agree. Um, well, you tried training, on average 60-year-olds when they've had certain behavioral habits for decades, trying to, re-educate them as to what they should and shouldn't be doing. It's yeah, there's some pretty stubborn ones, but it does eventually kind of sink in with some of them. So you do see that penny drop moment. I think I had one this morning about something, but it's just kind of having a bit of a chat with one of our guys about what he eats on a daily basis, and he was essentially having protein at one meal per day. And I kind of explained to him about, and he actually just wanted to lose weight. I was like, well, you need to, strengthen those muscles, make them more dense and build them. To do that, you need protein because, the whole muscle burns more calories than fat does. So, but just to kind
mm.
of, you can see it kind of, I don't believe you. Okay, maybe I'll believe it. Maybe I'll try. It takes a
Yep.
while for it to, you know, yeah, happen.
It's good. There's a question here that's sort of marketing related. David asks, which of the socials is best for this age group, 50 plus, if you're doing paid ads?
Yeah, look, paid ads, hands down, Meta, Facebook. I I've never really done Instagram ads. Um, I've dabbled in Google ads, but I've never really had any success from them. I mean, obviously referrals are always, well, anyone's kind of best form of marketing is, social proof that you're doing the right thing, and is generally free, unless we kind of say, if you bring your friend in and, they join, you get a free week or whatever that may be. But referrals are great. Facebook, you know, it still is the best form of online marketing, but I still do flyer drops as well.
Hmm.
We've done that a few times, um, because once again, a lot of our demographic don't have social media. But I've done my own ads myself for years, and I'm probably, it's whether I'm no marketing expert, but most times I've done it, I've had, quite good results. And once again, I've got a lot of friends that do own gyms. And when I speak to them about the CPL, the cost per lead, mine are generally lower than, fellow people in the industry. So, which is a good thing. It's, yeah.
Yeah, I had a good look at your ads and your social media. I think there's a few reasons why you're doing really well. Like one that stood out was the targeted demographic. Like it feels like it's actually for someone.
Yeah.
The branding's very clever, active and ageless. It actually tells you what it is. There's obviously 1,000 fitness brands out there, and they sometimes have clever names and numbers and stuff in there, and you're like, what the fuck do they do?
Mm,
And I just don't think that necessarily is easy to market. Like, not everyone's a Google, for example, where you can just
yeah.
choose like a random word. Other stuff, I like that the imagery you use looks like the demographic that you train. I think, yeah, that sort of 50 to 70 age group, Facebook was the thing. It was like the first social media platform. It's definitely the ones where I'm 46. Anyone older than me is generally on Facebook, and I
Mm,
guess the next 20 years below it might be sort of Instagram, and then my kids are now on TikTok. But like I don't run ads on TikTok because I don't want like school age kids coming into our sort
sure.
of gym.
Yeah.
So sounds like you've got that sort of nailed down. Hopefully that answers your question, David.
Yeah, and I
Um,
suppose that it's the important. It's the platform is obviously important, but the message has to be is different. For a younger demographic, they want to train for quite often different reasons. To you know, my members, they want to train for quality of life, healthy aging, functionality, mobility. Um, they want to be able to pick up their grandchildren properly. They want to be able to travel, continue to travel. Just obviously they need the strength and the functionality and physicality to do that. So I try to put a lot of that into my messaging as opposed to just looking good at the beach kind of thing.
yeah, like it's definitely quite competitive to get a 35-year-old female into a gym in Brisbane or Sydney because everyone's going for that demographic, and it's not just fitness. I think hairdressers are going for that market and
Yeah,
retailers are going for that
yeah,
market. Um, I love that it's not just kind of a copy and paste ad that you're sort of running there.
yeah. And look,
Can I ask?
I've done kind of sorry to my mate that helped me out a couple of years ago, but doing some really, really good videos, as in they were high spec. Is a brilliant videographer and director.
Okay.
They didn't do well at all. Whereas,
Wow.
the phone in the gym, just with my, members having a good time and training, having a laugh, they exponentially, give me better leads and, a lot more leads. So it's kind of the non-professional approach and just showing normal people, it's without that kind of that highly edited and photoshopped, videos, they just don't seem to work.
Yeah, that I see a lot of examples like that support that exact same thing. Maybe there's benefit in like on your website, like having one great video or something that's high spec, but it's yeah, we definitely want something that feels a bit real on our phones. Like there's so
Correct.
much
Yeah, people want to
bullshit
see
out there.
themselves there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Particularly with like AI coming in now and people are creating videos where they're not even talking and they've got yeah, I think it's nice if it just comes across as genuine.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, real people, really, and that's what we do. We train real people. We don't, train fitness models or anything like that.
I noticed as part of your marketing, you've got like an offer, an introductory offer, which enables people to come in on your website. I could see it was like a free trial. It was 10 days. It included like a movement screen. There was a sit down with a dietitian. We spoke about that before. It's like a one-on-one before they go into group. Have you ran that sort of promo for long? Have you found that that's like a good onboarding sort of gateway for that demographic?
Yeah, we've tried everything, and I'd like to sit here and say, my annual marketing plan is structured. It kind of, it isn't. Thankfully, there was for the Hurstville gym. There was a period of time where I didn't do any paid marketing for about 18 months at all, which was great because we'd reached a certain kind of amount of members with the particular offer that we have at the moment. That's just if people go to the website. We've found, I think we've tried a few different ones. It was like $17 for 10 days unlimited classes or 5 classes for $20. We've tried so many different ones. I do like to do a certain amount of classes for a buy-in, whatever that may be, $20, $30 or thereabouts, just because you get less tire kickers. Having said that, I think because a lot of our people have never stepped foot inside a gym, I don't mind every now and then doing free, like a free trial. As I'm sure the listeners, if they've done, free trial offers, you get a lot of people as soon as they've done their last day or their last class, you're never going to see them again. And that probably within, a couple of sessions kind of thing. That's just the reality of it. You get cheaper leads if you do a free offer online on Facebook, but you just get less quality leads. So it's kind of a funny one. Like I have done well out of a free offer just because, like, I don't like doing it generally, but I don't mind sometimes, purely because people just want to come in and they realize that it's not, we're not kind of big scary yelling trainers, and they don't want to financially commit to anything. They get in and then they probably see the value. But so the hardest part is getting my people in the door. So whether that's a free offer or a paid offer, it sometimes paid offers work, sometimes the free offers work. So I suppose it's just trial and error, really.
Mm. Yeah, I always consider, I guess, flow first. So trying to get enough people coming in to actually look at your facility.
Yes.
And then second, trying to add friction. So you might add a price later, or you might add stipulations or
Yeah.
something. But it's only after you've got enough flow. Like if your sales team aren't getting any phone calls, if they're not doing a tour, if they're like literally just scratching their hands together trying to find someone to actually talk about the gym to,
Yeah.
I think there's too much friction, and I think that makes a lot of sense just to keep sort of removing the barriers to entry. And if that means doing free in September to get like a lot of volume through and have a bit of atmosphere in the classes, I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and look, and depending on what stage you're at with your business as well, like we just for our Brisbane one that we opened up back in July, start of July, that was, we did a 10-day free paid ad, and it got a lot of people in the door. Obviously, not a lot of them stay, but quite a few did. Whereas now I'm doing a $20 for 5 classes up there, so it's a paid offer now. And it's which is kind of what you've just said. Of did the free one first just to get that momentum and whatnot, and also just even building greater brand awareness just by there's actually more eyes on the business, more eyes on the offerings up there, and then the paid one. And the reality is 5 classes of $20 is cheap anyways. So we're still getting quite good leads even for that one, quite cheap leads for that one, which is good.
Yeah. With your sales process, it sounds like there's a lot of value in that trial, like the movement screen, the dietitian chat. Do you feel like there's like a common barrier to entry for the 50 plus market? Is there if people don't start, there's obviously a heap to do, but if they don't, is there any like something, do they struggle to see themselves exercising? Do they always complain about the money? What do you find is like the reasons they mightn't start?
Yeah, look, money is a common objection, I suppose, even though they're probably a hell of a lot richer than most of us put together, but they're just more cautious. And but
Yep.
once again, they probably don't see the value. All they hear is that we are in a certain amount of dollars per week for 3 classes. And, well, I've heard that there's a, big box gym up the road doing, you know, $3.99 a week or whatever. And that's why it's good to get them in. They get that kind of attention throughout the class and whatnot. And they
Yeah.
get to kind of, see the value. I think that, so the price is definitely an objection. I say that probably the biggest objection is that people have just never done any exercise,
Anything. Yeah.
anything. And look, obviously we're open to helping and accommodating anybody, but our best members and ones that are the stickiest members are the ones that have done something before. Like whether it might not necessarily be gym training, they might be, a regular walker, a regular tennis player, or a golfer, or swimmer, or whatever, or they've gone to another gym and then they've seen us and like, oh wow, you guys actually specialize in, this age group. Maybe we'll give you a try. So I think those ones that have always done something, that is part of their habit. They come to us, they love it, and they quite often stay with us. So, and this has kind of come back to, behavioral change is hard. And if you've been inactive for decades, and don't
Mm.
get me wrong, I've had some people, and I think I can pick them, but there's some people I'm like, they're not going to last. And they've been with us for years, and they've literally overhauled their entire life. The amount of people that we've had who've, reversed their diabetes, or I could go on for hours about the stories we've had and feedback we've had from our members that have literally just have completely overhauled their life with us, whether that's they muted their loss of bone mineral densities and whatnot. So they were osteopenic or osteoporotic, and they kind of reversed that. So there's yeah, there's plenty of great stories. So it is yeah, it's a fun
I love the
demographic.
passion. I love the passion when you're talking about the results and, creating change for the
Mm,
members. Obviously, you can't be at all 3 to 5 sites and that at the moment, but it all sort of started with you on the gym floor, sort of leading it and having that
yeah,
high touch, high interaction.
yeah.
I'm curious to know what's one thing you know now in business that you wish you knew at the start. So you've had a few fit outs, you've employed some staff, you've had some great members, probably a few punished members that you might have had to sack.
Oh yeah,
Um,
I actually have done that. Yeah,
what
and yeah, you can actually have the chat to them and get rid of them if they're poisonous. But yeah, and there's plenty. Look, when you've been there in business, mate, business, I suppose I was not under no disillusion that business is tough. It is a roller coaster, and there's times that you think you're absolutely killing it, and then all of a sudden you open your emails and your boss is due. This member's complaining about something, that staff member is deciding to leave, or whatever it may be. So I suppose understanding how much of a roller coaster it can be, being an entrepreneur, a business owner, it can be also lonely, which is great to have, mentors such as yourself, and even people that friends that own gyms as well, just to kind of have a chat with and whatnot, just to understand that you're not really alone, even though it feels as though you can be. You've got to come in, whether it's your staff or your members, you've got to put on that brave face. When I remember I got told to pay back my COVID payments because the New South Wales government was a bit of an oversight on their
that was
behalf.
nice of them,
And
wasn't
it's 10 minutes before a class, and everyone's like, "Hey, how you doing? How's your day?" And I'm like, "Great."
it?
So it's like I said, it is a challenge, but if you love what you do, you love your business, you love your members, you love health and wellness and fitness and whatnot. Yeah, just understand that those, we just say the ebbs and flows, or especially the ebbs, they don't last. And that was probably one thing that's in especially my first couple of years, is when you get down in one of those kind of, or just say a rut, whether it's whether it's your personal energy, or you're not knowing whether your concept's working, or you seem to have a one-way street where your money flowing out and not much coming in. If you've got a good product, you work hard, you've got good people surrounding you, mentors and colleagues and whatnot. The ruts don't last forever. You will come out, and you will, yeah, strive on forward, really.
Yeah, it's such good feedback because I'm sure there's people on the call that have had a shit week. I'm sure we can all relate to that sort of thing where you get absolutely punched in the guts and you've got to go and chat to someone on the phone, or you try not to pass it on to your partner at home or your staff. That's obviously a reflection of us. So
Yeah, absolutely.
um,
And look, there's a reason why not everyone's a business owner. It is tough. And sometimes you think the world's against you, the government's against you, the banking systems, whatever it may be, but you are doing this for a reason. It's and it is a great industry to be in. But yeah, just stay strong. And yeah, it's hard to be positive at times, and you don't need to be positive all the times. But I suppose just the awareness that yeah, you keep doing what you're doing, you will, yeah.
um, there's a question there. Future growth plans. I heard you say you've got 2 sites up on the Gold Coast. So you sort of your current plans?
Yeah, yeah, great question. So that's a joint venture up there, and we're doing essentially a trial with at 2 locations up there. They are quite a big provider of aged care. So we after the trial, we might roll it out to a few more of their locations, which will be good. But in terms of our standalone facilities, like here, we are looking for one, if not two more locations in and around Sydney at the moment. So yeah, I do love the industry. I do actually really like the business side of things now. It took me a while to really, really like it, but once again, it has its challenges. But I love now opening up new gyms. It is quite a cool. It's a buzz, and the reality is when you do it, you're helping more people. So yeah, we are in the position to want to grow more.
What do you think you're better at now as a brand? Like as the model, as a team, what do you think you're better at now than you might have been a couple of years ago? Sure you've honed your
Delegating.
skills. Delegating.
Delegating.
Okay.
And you got it. And that's, I've got some brilliant staff now. I've got a manager at each location and, two or three trainers at each location. So, um, and this is something that I'm trying to get better at myself as a leader, as a manager, as a mentor, um, is to kind of get, your managers to do their job. They're the point of contact for members. They're the point of contact for their trainers and whatnot. So, I mean, if you get, down in the weeds with dealing with the day-to-day minutiae of running a gym, then you're not going to be able to grow and expand. So I suppose stepping away to a certain extent, but also giving your staff the tools that they need to succeed, which is what I probably did wrong at the very start when I had a manager. I was still working overseas on the oil rigs at the time, and I had a manager, and I probably didn't set them up for success. I kind of just said, right, here's the keys, build me a gym. I'll be back in, 8 weeks. I'll be in the middle of the ocean on an oil rig and then stuck in international quarantine. Whereas now I think, and I'm hoping, I'm setting up my managers, and they know their jobs, they know their tasks. We're suppose, and we continue to improve upon that, with our monthly marketing meetings, our weekly management meetings and whatnot. So they know what they're doing. I never want them to feel as though they've just been, kind of, would you say, left alone kind of thing. So yeah, that's definitely you need to get better. If you are going to grow and expand and scale, you do need to really, put systems in place downstream for everyone else to succeed within your business.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's nice for people on the call watching the recording to know that like you're not born with all the skills. You may not have all the skills at the moment, and maybe you're great at doing a good class, and you've got your first staff member or something, and then it's kind of a new set of skills. But you just got to be open to learning some new things, don't you?
Oh yeah, look, you fall forward. I don't even want to go. I actually wrote down not long ago. I was on a day trip somewhere, and I wrote down all my, I don't like to call them failures, but just say things that I've done wrong over the years in business. And then I actually went back and put a financial value to a lot of them, and it was a
Oh,
proper,
that would hurt.
it was a gut punch. But you know what? I know that I won't, well, hopefully won't make a lot of those same mistakes again. So, but yeah, there's been plenty. So look, we all do them. And I suppose being in business, if you make a mistake, just embrace it and look for learnings from it more so than anything. And don't be afraid to fail, because there's so many education. It could be an expensive educational lesson in it, but you learn from it.
Yeah, I love it. I'm so grateful for you logging on today. I'm conscious of your time. So many things I think you should be really proud of with this brand. It's unique, and it has you in it. Like it's what you're passionate about, and it enables you to sort of enact some change on the industry as opposed to just making heaps of money or whatever might be sort of attracting people into other industries like real estate or whatever. You were great today, just sharing different ideas around like pricing points and staffing. Yeah, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for all the listeners out there.